The debate about whether choice and diversity are irreconcilable differences still goes on. Where do you see the experiments of magnet schools and charter schools within this discussion?
Well, you know, an interesting thing about it is the history of choice and the history of desegregation are really deeply related. We never had much choice in American public schools until desegregation came along. And then thousands of southern school districts adopted a program called freedom of choice. And the idea was that they would leave the white schools and black schools as they were and allow students to choose to transfer between them. And hardly anybody chose to transfer. No white that I ever heard of chose to transfer into the black schools. So they remained entirely segregated. And for the black students, not very many of them wanted to go as an outsider in a very small minority into a white school. So it wasn't until we got beyond the choice process, which was found by the courts to be inequitable and unsuccessful, and we went towards mandated desegregation that the South really changed dramatically. Now, after that, choice came back in a different form in magnet schools, because central cities were supposed to desegregate, and they were told they couldn't go to the suburbs, which made it an incredibly difficult task. So they invented magnet schools on a big scale in the 1970s to try to get people to come to desegregated schools voluntarily by offering special curricula and so forth. Now, the problem with choice plans is that choice plans privilege people who understand how they work. All choice plans have a bias in them in terms of the people who can figure them out and people who have more knowledge and information are more likely to get into the good places. And unrestricted choice without any racial controls tends to produce segregation and even undermine integrated places. It also tends to produce a lot of social class stratification. It's been tried in a lot of other countries, like New Zealand has a massive choice plan, for example, which has really stratified the country tremendously. So choice doesn't necessarily produce desegregation or equity or interclass thing. What it does do is it provides new educational opportunities, which are really important. And it provides things that can't be done in individual schools that can be done in a special school. And in the case of a big city, it provides some diversity in a district that doesn't have any. And it provides some schools that function as a path to college in a place where there are almost no paths to college for the poor kids and the minority kids. So it's a trade-off. And you think about it like I think about it as something that has costs and benefits. And in my mind, whether the trade-off should go towards more choice depends on what the conditions on the choice are. Whether or not there's a lot of information that gives them to the parents, whether there's a fair selection mechanism, whether there's an intentional process of integrating those schools, whether the choice schools receive rather than exclude handicapped children, language minority children, and so forth. Under the right conditions where there's enough protections, choice can be a very useful thing, especially in an extremely segregated district with very few options. That's why I'm supporting it in Los Angeles, and I've worked on it in other places. But unrestricted choice without any of those things is not something that's a good idea. It's something that really increases stratification, even if it offers some new educational options. So in terms of magnet schools, a lot of the magnet schools, we just did a report on magnet schools that you can see on our website. There's 2 million students in magnet schools in the United States. It's the biggest form of choice. It's about twice as big as charter schools. Magnet schools used to be supported actively by the federal government. The funding for magnet schools has been cut back dramatically. Funding for charter schools has been dramatically increased. In most states, charter schools don't have any of these equity provisions in the state law. Some places they do. My belief is that where a school is operated as a choice school and it has those kinds of policies and practices, it offers an important advantage. But it's limited as a general solution. And where it doesn't have those things, it's a questionable investment of public resources.
For more information, visit hightechhigh.org.